All right. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. We are back. All right. We are continuing with our look at the triennial Torah portion. This week, we are looking at Numbers 23 and 24. Numbers 23 and 24, we are continuing our look at Balaam. We're continuing our look at the story of Balaam, who was a very interesting character. We find last week we dealt with Balaam and the interesting fact that him not being part of the children of Israel, he was somehow connected to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We saw that he also had, at least in the eyes of the Moabites, had this name of renown, where he was able to bless things, and if he blessed them, they was blessed, and if they was cursed, they were cursed. The scripture doesn't explicitly say where Balaam was from. It tells you who his father was, Beor. They tell you where he was at, Pethor, but it doesn't tell you the people that he actually belonged to. One thing that seems to be the case is that he frequented the Midianites. It's possible that he is a Midianite. There is someone of the same name. There's someone of the same name who is the father of one of the elders or dukes of Edom. So we see that there's potentially a connection to the Edomites, but again, there's no explicit, thing given to us in Scripture saying that Balaam is this or that. One thing I did see, one thing I found here over this last week, as I was looking, is that there was some extra biblical references of Balaam. Apparently in 1967 there was an archaeological site that was in Gilead, east of the Jordan, and they found these inscriptions which were written in plaster and that were probably displayed on a wall. And these laboratory tests that they did on these inscriptions determined that these were something that was from around 800 BC, which would be slightly before the Assyrian captivity. All right, so you have these inscriptions that contain this poetic story of this person called Balaam the seer, and a vision that was given to him by this god El. And in the first part of the inscription, there's this council of hostile gods that oppose the high god, who is El. And Balaam receives a vision warning that this council plans to force these other gods, Shagar and Ishtar, the goddess of fertility and light, to close the heavens so that the land will remain in darkness and chaos. And then so they have this text again that is broken and it's unclear, but Balaam apparently warns the leaders, and somehow the impending disaster is averted. And so they see all of this in this plaster inscription that they found. So 800 BC is going to be after the time of when we read the story of Balaam, obviously. But still you have this kind of this, I don't know if it's this, I want to say folklore, but it's just the story being preserved of Balaam, who is this person by people, in the vicinity of, where Israel is, speaking of this individual who, although he's not someone who is part of Israel, he speaks to the God of Israel, and it's another example of the God of Israel being the God of gods, where these other deities have to bow down to the wishes and the will of the one true Elohim, who is the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So I just thought that it was interesting that they had this piece of extra biblical things that they found over there in that area. Go ahead.
It just shows how famous he was too.
He was famous. This guy was definitely famous. Balaam.
Everybody knew him.
There was things that he was into that was obviously bad. But at the same time, we talked about this some last week, is where we see these people who represent the God of the Bible in speech. They say that they're representatives of the Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and yet and still we're able to witness the things that they do, and it's very different from what the actual word says. When we look at Yeshua, where he talks about these people who perform miracles, they cast out demons, they did all these things, and so we have to think about the fact that the Most High actually used these people who he said he never knew. He used these people to do things, for their benefit, healing people and casting out demons from people, and all of these miraculous things that he allowed these people to perform. But yet and still the performers, the ones who were doing the thing, were actually not part of the Most High's people. In fact, he said he never knew them. He didn't have a relationship with them. And so it's just a thing that we're able to see through all of this. But we're able to continue to see more of this story as we look over here. I want to we'll go ahead. Let's see here. Let's read through chapter 23, and then we'll go back and look at some of the specifics inside of it here. Let me pull up the verses over here. Numbers. Look at Numbers 23. Alright, we'll go ahead and pull that up, and then we'll go ahead and read that. Nice and loud.
Alright. It says, and Balaam said to Balak, build 7 slaughter places for me here, and prepare 7 bulls and 7 rams for me here. And Balak did as Balaam had spoken, and Balak and Balaam offered a bull and a ram on each slaughter place. Balaam then said to Balak, stand by your ascending offering, and let me go on. It might be that Yahweh does come to meet me, and whatever he shows me I shall declare to you. And he went to a bare height. And Elohim came to Balaam, and he said to him, I have prepared the 7 slaughter places, and I have offered on each slaughter place a bull and a ram. And Yahweh put a word in the mouth of Balaam and said, return to Balak, and this is what you say. And he returned to him and saw him standing by his ascending offering, he and all his heads of Moab. And he took up his proverb and said, Balak, the sovereign of Moab, has brought me from Aram, from the mountains of the east. Come, curse Jacob for me, and come rage at Israel. How do I curse whom El has not cursed? And how do I rage at whom Yahweh has not raged? For from the top of the rocks I see him, and from the hills I observe him. Look, a people dwelling alone, not reckoning itself among the nations. Who shall count the dust of Jacob, and the number of 1/4 of Israel? Let me die the death of the upright, and let my end be like his. And Balak said to Balaam, what have you done to me? I took you to curse my enemies, and look, you have kept on blessing. And he answered and said, should I not take heed to speak what Yahweh has put in my mouth? And
here, let's actually just deal with these first 12 verses here, and we'll continue on with reading after we look at these some of these things over here. I want to first of all, it's interesting that when we look at this is the thing that they've been doing, right? They've been going to these various places and building these altars and bringing forth these various sacrifices and offerings. Something that I see over here in this book here, the Old Testament Light, Indispensable Guide to the Customs, Manners, and Idioms of the Bible by this fellow here, George Lamza. He's this fellow who actually has an Aramaic translation of the Old Testament. And so he has a handle on the Aramaic language as well as the Hebraic customs. And over here on verse 1, where it begins to talk about the fact that they build these slaughter places over here. It says in this book here that sacrifices were used by the Hebrews, of course, as well as by the pagans for divination. The person who inquired of a deity offered a burnt offering to the god. The people in those days believed that the gods were pleased with the savor of the burnt offerings. The priests and soothsayers lived on what the people offered to their gods. That's true for not only the pagans, but obviously Israel as well, right? And so while the meat was being broiled, the prophet, or the people who's connected with these pagan gods, meditated and gave an oracle to the inquirer who stood by his offering. Balaam was told by Elohim to speak the truth and to bless Israel, which Balaam did, much to the displeasure of the king of Moab. And so it's interesting that when we think about these things in light of the customs of the day, there's many things that we see that the Most High put boundaries on and connected to his own self, and we can see that there's similar customs that existed with the people that were around Israel at the time, but of course they're doing their things to their local deities, right? And so this is a thing that they did. Just like if the thing that I thought about was, and something that I actually found somewhere. Hold on, was it this book that I found it in? Where it talks about the I don't know if it was this book that I found it in or not, but how you look at these some of these little these soothsayer type people who like read the tea leaves, like they put the tea in the thing and then they give their thing based on what the tea leaves tell them. Well, you don't know about that, reading tea leaves? Okay, well that's the thing. And so another thing is reading the ashes of the burnt offering that was given. And so it's interesting that when we see each time when Balaam goes to do goes to speak to the Most High, there's this offering that's given, and then after the offering he says what the Most High says to him. But it was a thing that they did to actually look at the ashes of the offering and think that they get some type of some revelation from the physical ashes. And so again, just thinking about all of these things in terms of the actual customs of the people that that lived at this time. One thing I wanted to pay attention to is in verse 3. Hold on, verse 3. Yeah. Okay, where it says, Balaam then said to Balak, "Stand by your ascending offering and let me go on. It might be that Yahweh does come to meet me." It might be. I thought that was interesting because, other places we see that Balaam is just like, you wait here, I'm gonna go get a word from the Most High. But over here they use this word. Let's see here. What it says in the. Hold on, I gotta select verse 3. Peradventure, which is this word ulai. Interesting. If not, hence perhaps, if so, maybe, peradventure, unless. And so when we look at what's going on over here after these things have gone on, this whole thing with the donkey stopping him and the angel being sent and all of this, now there's a slightly different tone from Balaam, where he talks about the fact if he comes to me. I don't know if he himself recognizes the fact that there are some discrepancies in the way in which he's moving, or if there's just a distant feeling or whatever inside of Balaam. But for whatever reason, when we compare what the way in which he was speaking originally to the way in which he is speaking over here, it's slightly different. Okay, and so I just thought that was an interesting thing. So let's keep on going over here. We went down to 12, so let's drop down to verse number 8, which we've read. We read down here, right?
Yep. Yeah, we did.
Okay. Where it says, how do I curse whom El has not cursed? And how do I rage at whom Yahweh has not raged? And so let's just kind of think about what it is over here that Balaam is being asked to do, where he says that he won't curse the people. He won't kadab the people. This word that means to scoop out, which is an interesting thing to think about in regards to a people. That is figuratively a malign or execrate, that is stab with words. I can understand the idea of stabbing with words, right? Because we know that words, when we were kids, we were told there's a lie that sticks and stones may indeed break our bones, but words will never hurt you. Here, let me put over here to my picture fast. I have to emphasize this. That has actually been determined to be a lie. Words can indeed hurt you. But we used to say that, somebody, you said that, when we were kids, we said things that were lies just to kind of, for our ego, right? We sat up there and we were mean to the girls that we actually liked, right? We did these silly things. Somebody says something that actually hurt you, but you, because you don't want to make it seem like it hurt you, would say that thing. You would say, sticks and stones could break my bones, but words will never hurt me.
But you're crying inside.
Inside, you're dying inside. Right? But we see over here, and this is something that is a biblical thing. The Most High refuses to allow Balaam to speak ill of his people. They're not even talking about doing something to the people. In fact, he allows the people to come up against them. He allows people to come up against Israel all the time. I mean, sometimes they win. Most of the times they win in these battles. That, but he allows people to come up and attempt to do physical harm on Israel. But he will not. He refuses to allow for this person who is Balaam to scoop out Israel, to curse them, to stab Israel with words. It's so interesting. Are we so careful?
Yeah.
Are we so careful with the way that we speak to one another? Because this is Israel's people, and the Most High he's refusing to do it. If we look at something interesting that becomes of this, I keep wanting to say folklore, but and I'm only saying that because we see what the scripture says. The Balaam's being paid to do a thing, and the text makes it seem as if he refuses to do it. He does what the Most High says. But if we go over to Nehemiah, by the time it gets to Nehemiah, it causes people to actually think about this in another way. Nehemiah 13, verse 1 and 2. What's that say there?
1 and 2 says, "On that day was read from the book of Moshe in the hearing of the people, and in it was found written that an Ammonite and a Moabite should not come into the assembly of Elohim forever, because they had not met the children of Israel with bread and water, and hired Balaam against them to curse them, although our Elohim turned the curse into a blessing."
Although, says right over here, although our Elohim turned the curse into a blessing. And so when you look at some of the rabbinic writings and things, when they talk about Balaam, you talk about the fact that they say he actually tried to curse Israel. But when he opened his mouth, blessings came out.
He tried it.
And so when you look at Nehemiah, and it's interesting because he's going along. If he wasn't going to do the thing, he could have just not even went to the person. Like, he's trying. He's getting together with this sovereign of Moab. He's getting together with him in this task that he's being called to perform, which is cursing. But it's interesting the language that's used over here, where it says Elohim turned the curse into blessing. But when we read it, he's saying blessings only. And then he's also even saying that I only can say what the Most High says that I'm able to say. And so when we think about this idea of curses, these words that hurt, scooping out. It's an interesting thought when you think about the ability to take some type of instrument and a scoop. If I have a little melon baller, I'm taking this instrument and I'm removing part of the melon with this melon baller, with this scoop. But this word literally means to scoop out, to curse. And so it's as if you're literally taking a part of this, whatever it is that you're cursing, and it could be individuals, where you're taking pieces of that individual and you're scooping parts of the person out. You're diminishing from the substance of a thing, because that's what you do when you scoop something out, right? If I have a container of ice cream and I get an ice cream scoop, I've diminished the amount of matter that exists inside of the container, right? But when we look at this word over here, kebab, kebab, it's stabbing with words. It's scooping out, right? And so again, when we think about the way in which we deal with people, are we careful? Are we careful not to scoop out from, people in our interactions? Because the Most High, He refused to let that be done towards Israel. He refused to let it happen. Yep. And I'm saying if we take it that far as to where it gets to it in Nehemiah, where it says, although our Elohim turned, hold on. Well, let me see this here. It said He turned the curse into a blessing. Well, we don't know of any curses that was spoken. So the only way He could have turned a curse into a blessing was to do it in His mouth or in His brain. But what's this? Because it never came out. It never came out, right? It didn't make it past His lips. I'm trying to see what this is. Hired Balaam against them that he should curse them. Oh, turned. Here it is right here. Havak. Havak. To turn about or over. By implication, to change, overturn, return, pervert, become changed, converted, overthrow, all these things. So it gives you the idea of something literally turning, something changing. And so if we just leave it at, without trying to wonder how this or that happened in his mind, in his throat or whatever, we know that there was a hand by the Most High in the fact that the only thing that was able to be heard, the only thing that was ever able to be vocalized was blessings in regards to Israel. And so, again, this is something that we should, take into account, with our dealings with our people. Because sometimes we're kind of quick to allow our ice cream scoop of a mouth to begin to scoop away at our people. And again, when we think about the fact that the Most High, what He did over here, was everything but that.
I think that you have to, when you look at someone, like, you gotta respect the Elohim that they serve, and you should respect the Elohim they serve if you serve the same one. But if you're scared of someone, you're not just gonna scoop out of them real easily.
Well, I don't think I thought about it to that degree in terms of how I being scared of someone or not. I really kind of don't think about things in that way. I guess it's kind of a manly thing. When we deal with other humans, we don't really. It's interesting. It's interesting the way that men operate, because there probably could be things, people that you probably in reality should be quote unquote scared of, but something inside of a man, sometimes causes you to say whatever you want to say to whoever you want to say it to.
A real matter of fact.
Yeah, it's just that's something that we do at times. Sometimes it may actually be to our detriment. But I think that what we learn from this over here is being able to kind of temper our words in regards to the Most High's people. This is something that we should be able to do. It's something that the Most High is in fact doing. It's interesting. We think about Israel as a whole. At this point in time, Israel is a terrible people. When it talks about these people coming up against Moses, coming up against the Most High, it's speaking about Israel as a whole. Even though we know that it's not all of the people, it's probably a majority of the people, but they're most of Israel, living this really rebellious existence. And if we understand this to be kind of a linear situation where they just got finished doing this stuff over here that was terrible, that caused these plagues to happen to them, and then right after that is this, Israel is in a bad way. But the Most High don't say, well, this people is acting up, so I'm just gonna let these people come and talk bad about Israel. That's not how this works. And I can think about times where I would take up for someone who probably didn't even need to be taken up for, but because of my relationship with them, it would supersede whatever somebody else could do. Like if you have siblings, you could talk bad about your siblings until the cows come home, but let somebody else come and try to do it. Right? And so the Most High, of course, is not dealing with Israel in terms of where they are, but he deals with Israel in terms of his overall plan for us. And so he's not dealing in emotion. He's not dealing from a reactionary standpoint. Even though they just got finished being disobedient, he still wants only blessings to be given, spoken about in regards to these people. And so again, we look at these verses, this is what he's saying over here. How do I do it? How do I curse if y'all never did that? He never cursed them. So how am I supposed to do it?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, the children of Israel are children of the Most High, right? And, children go astray. You got to spank them. You got to, chastise them.
Yeah.
But that don't mean you're going to let another person come in and, and kill your kids.
Right.
Bless so we can be victorious against, hey, Adoniyahu. You know what I'm saying? I really don't like Hiskey. Why don't you let me take him on the back and wear him out?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It don't make no sense. Nah, that ain't going to happen.
Right. Yeah.
Right? And so that's how the Most High is with his children.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's disciplining them. Yeah, he's sending them through some trials and tribulations.
Yeah.
But does he want them to be just blot it out.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. And it's interesting that when we look at these people who, obviously from an outside perspective looking in, where, we knowing who the Most High is, know that he can't let this happen. But these people who don't have a working knowledge of who the Most High is, namely Balak, is like, well, this won't work. Let's go to another place and try it over here. All right. He keeps on trying this same thing over and over again, when it's not working no times, because he doesn't understand the character of the one who is the God of these people who he's trying to bring curses on. In fact, it's when you think about it in terms of the children of Israel, it's almost like the bully coming to the house and asking for the father to allow the bully to beat up the son. Like, it's, when you think about it in that way, it don't make any sense. But they don't understand who the Most High is and his relationship with the Most High, with Israel, where they could even see it in that way. Where to them, and dealing with their gods that they create, and they can attach any type of characteristic to their gods that they see fit, because they made up the gods. Right. But when you have the true and living God, who is the creator and sustainer of all things, we're not able to put characteristics on him. He moves in a certain way, and those that know him understand the way in which he moves. And we can even see this, kind of being manifest in these words. How do I do something that the Most High didn't say that I'm supposed to be doing?
I think he's pushing his luck, though.
He did.
Literally. he just saw the flaming sword.
Oh yeah, Balaam.
And you still going forward and pushing, and
yeah, I think, yeah, and I think that again, that I think that a thing that I think is most important in understanding this is the fact that this is not somebody who belongs to Israel, but it's someone who the Most High is allowing to hear from him. And so things that he wouldn't allow for his own people to do, he, it seems, has more leeway because he's not even really attached. And these things,
which is interesting. That's interesting.
It is interesting, but when you look at the end result, it's for the good of Israel. And so he's allowing for him to hear perfectly clear from him, not even for his own benefit, because the thing that's being asked of him, he's not doing that, but he's still hearing from the Most High for the benefit of Israel. And again, it's just like how we think about what Yeshua said. Again, those people, to be in a place where they're literally doing the work of the Most High, they're doing kingdom work, but they don't benefit from the work that they're doing because of the fact that, they themselves don't benefit, but the kingdom is enlarged. But the Most High, Yeshua says at the end of the day, I never knew you. And so, it's possible to think about the fact that people are literally having these kind of pseudo relationships with the Father, doing work for the Most High, and at the end of the day, none of the things that they've done matters because the relationship that they actually had with the Father wasn't something that was real. Which, is interesting because, people really have to be able to, honestly look at their relationship with the Most High and know if they actually know the Father. Because this is another clear example of someone who, he has all of the things. He hears from the Most High. The Most High says for him to do the thing, and at least out of his mouth, he's saying, I can only do what he says that I'm supposed to be doing. He knows who he is. These are things that you would think would be signs of someone who's actually connected. But again, we're able to see in the way that he's moving that there's problems with his solidarity to the Most High, based on the fact that he's going through these various processes to even entertain these things. But I want to keep on going over here because when we look at verse we just talked about verse 8. Verse 9, this version here says, as I see him from the top of the rocks, and I look at him from the hills, behold, a people who dwells apart. Talking about Israel, who dwells apart, who is set apart people, right? Shall not be reckoned among the nations, right? He's giving us, kind of a look into the way in which Israel is perceived. But verse 10 is what I wanted to look at, where it says, who can count the dust of Jacob? Who can count the dust of Jacob, right? This has nothing to do with, dirt, right? Or dust even, but the enormity, right? The greatness and number of the people, which is interesting because in terms of the size of Israel, they weren't at this time especially, they weren't a particularly large group of people, right? There was roughly 600 or so thousand people, which is a lot of people when we think about a nation. It's a small amount of people, even though we look further in Deuteronomy where it talks about the fact that Israel wasn't a great number in size. When it came up against these other nations, it wasn't because Israel was greater. It was because they had the Most High with them.
Right.
And so when we look at this verse 10 where it talks about who can count the dust of Jacob and the number of the fourth part of Israel, it's interesting because that really is this thing that's prophetic, that's looking into the future and dealing with the way in which the people of the Most High will grow and multiply. And so when we think about that, even beyond just a physical standpoint, it's not just thinking about the idea of, there being, many people that will be physically descendants of Israel. Not only that, but the way in which, those that through Yeshua are able to be attached to the actual people of Israel and benefit from all the benefits that the Most High is able to give. When we think about this over here, counting the dust of Jacob and numbering a fourth part of Israel, I immediately think about Revelation, where it gives you the 144,000, and along with the 144,000, it gives you the number that no man can number in regards to the people that are with the 144,000. No man can number it, just like who can count the dust of Jacob, or who can count the number of the fourth part of Israel. So again, we look at Balaam with what he was been, asked to do, scoop out Israel. But meanwhile, he's giving this. He has nothing but these prophetic utterances that speak to, the multiplying of this people. Yes. A prophecy of the end still to come. Yes, absolutely. And also in the same verse we see over here, let me die the death of the upright, and let my end be like his.
He's not going to get that death.
Yes.
If he wanted it, he's not going to get it.
That's what he wants, yes. And so when we think about that, right? I always think about the idea that, and we see it even in this verse, we see that Israel is referred to by three names, right? We see Yaakov here. We see it in verse 10. We see Yisrael here, and then also it's interesting that the words that's used, let me die the death of the upright. Let's see here. If we click on this, verse 10. It says righteous in this. But the word is Yashar, which is the root for Yeshurun, which is upright ones, right? And so when we think about these three different aspects of Israel, the Yaakov, Jacob, is obviously going to be the physical aspect, right? Jacob was the supplanter. He went and physically came up with this physical plan to receive the thing that the Most High, has said was for him, right? I guess he could have tried to attain it from a spiritual standpoint, but that's not what he did, right? We see Yisrael, which was given to Jacob when he wrestled with this angel in the night, right, where he had this spiritual battle with this angel who he ends up referring to as Elohim. Right, he named the place after, he had this encounter with Elohim. So when you think about Yisrael, we can think about this idea of having this kind of you striving for this spiritual existence, right? And that's really kind of where we deal, even now, to get to the place of being that upright one, that Yeshu run, that one who is indeed upright, no longer striving to be upright. That is the one who is fully controlled by the Spirit. And it's interesting that we only see that in the scripture probably 4 times. I think 2 times it might be in the same chapter. And so when we think about this verse over here where it says, let me die the death of the upright, let my end be like his, it's interesting that when you think about the fact that there's things involved that these people obviously don't understand, that cause you to be able to actually die the death of the upright, and for your end to actually be like his. You may actually long to die the death of the righteous. You can long to have that end be something that be attached to your situation. But it is a vain dream unless you actually live the life of the upright and the righteous.
Mm-hmm.
Some people want to be blessed. They don't want to serve the Most High.
Yeah, and those things come together. Right? You can't have one without the other. And it don't matter how much you ascribe your wicked blessings to the Most High, because people do that. People sit up here and be involved in all types of wickedness. Especially you see these music people who they are the main propagators of Hasatan himself. They do all the things that the God of this world wants for them to do. And they get up there in front of millions of people and say, I want to thank Jesus.
They're talking about the other Jesus. They know who they're thinking. They definitely know who they're thinking.
The other Jesus.
And they ain't talking about Yeshua.
They can be. They're not talking about the Hebrew Messiah.
No.
They could potentially be talking about the Greek Jesus.
They're talking about the anti.
But they're not thinking about the Hebrew Messiah. No way. Let's look at some verses over here. Because this is something that, even if we could say that we have a full understanding of the way that we need to be in our lives, I think it's also important that we have a full understanding in the things that we need to be making clear for people to understand. So let's look over here at John in 6. We looked at John chapter 6 last week. We probably even read this verse, but we wasn't. This verse here is pertinent to what we're talking about right now. What does it say in verse number 47 right there?
Truly, truly, I say to you, he who believes in me possesses everlasting life.
It said, he who believes in me possesses everlasting life. He who believes in me, that person is going to die the death of the righteous. Everybody going to die, but everybody's not going to die the death of the righteous. In order to die the death of the righteous, you got to believe in Yeshua HaMashiach.
Mm-hmm.
You got to have faith. You got to be steadfast in let's understand this, because we think about believing, and we think about believing in terms of something that happens in your mouth, or even just only in your mind, right? Mm-hmm. This word pisteuo, which is Greek, which is translated as faith, to entrust, right? To believe, to commit, to trust, to put trust with. Mm-hmm. So when we think about things that we trust in, it's not something that we only say, it's something that we do.
Mm-hmm. It's a verb.
When they do, faith is indeed a verb. When we think about the idea of trusting something, the best way to think about it is a chair. If I say that I trust in a chair, but I refuse to sit in the chair, do I really trust it? Mm-hmm. I don't trust it. I tell you what I don't trust is those little $5 chairs from Walmart. Those little you know what I'm talking about, them little lawn chair things. Mm-hmm. I don't trust those things, so therefore I don't sit in them. Right? But that heavy duty chair that I got from Harbor Freight, I trust that chair. And I sit in it. I only sit in it because I trust it. And so when I think about the idea of believing in Yeshua, right? If you believe in me, you keep my commandments. Mm-hmm. If you believe in Yeshua, you do the things that are pleasing to him. That's proof that you believe in him, right? If I love my wife, if I say that I love my wife, I don't slap her. Right? If I love her, I'm not gonna be mean to her. I'm not gonna be a brute to her. If I love her, if I say it, right? It's a thing that is a verb. It's not something that's going on in your mind. It's something that you exemplify. And understanding it from a Hebraic standpoint, when we think about the idea of trust, we think about the idea of faith, it's about being steadfast and immovable. And so somebody could sit up here and have whatever they got to say about the thing that I'm faithing. And if I'm truly in faith in this thing, it don't matter what they say, because they can't cause me to not have faith in the thing. Mm-hmm. Because that's what faith is. It's firmness. Mm. It's not wishy-washiness. Mm-hmm. Faith is not wishy-washy. If you're always thinking about, is he really my Savior? Mm-hmm. Is he really able to save me? If you're saying that, no, then he's not able to. Because that's not faith. Mm-hmm. Faith is knowing and being persuaded that he has done what it is that he said that he's going to do. And that he did do already for you. Mm. That's faith. And so that's the only way that you're able to die the death of the upright. Mm. It's through faith. Let's look at something else here. We look at Deuteronomy 32. It's the opposite side of the same coin. 32 verse 20.
Says, and he said, let me hide my face from them. Let me see what their end is. For they are preserved generation.
Perverse.
Perverse generation. Children in whom there is no trusting.
The people who don't have no faith, he said, let me hide my face from them. He not dealing with you. Let me see what their end is. The ones that he hid his face from. It's not the death of the righteous, I tell you that right now. When we think back to Numbers, let my end be like his. He wasn't talking about these people over here. Because these people over here, these people are disconnected from the Most High. When he say, let me hide my face from them, that means disconnect. That means he don't mess with you like that. The Most High. And we don't want for the Most High to say that he don't mess with us like that.
It's gonna be a lot of people.
It's gonna be a lot of people. That's what he said. It's gonna be. He said, straight is the gate and narrow is the way that leadeth unto life, but few there is that find it. It's gonna be few that find it. But the criteria for not finding it is not trusting, is not having faith, is not believing in Yeshua. And so you could want to die the death of the upright, but unless you live a life that is according to righteousness and faith, then you're not gonna see that end. Not at all. Romans chapter 1. 16 to 17
says, for I am not ashamed of the good news of Messiah, for it is the power of Elohim for deliverance to everyone who believes.
Everyone who believes. It's the power of deliverance to everyone. You could there's not a period right there. It keeps on going. To everyone who believes. Who has faith, who is unwavered, who is fully committed in their mind, body, and soul, who loves Yahweh, their Elohim, in all their strength and with all their mind and with all their heart. Everyone who believes. Go ahead.
Says, to the Yehudi first and also to the Greek. For in it, the righteousness of Elohim is revealed from belief.
In this good news, this good news, the righteousness of Elohim is revealed. Go ahead.
From belief to belief, as it has been written. But the righteous shall live by belief.
King James is what I'm used to hearing in regards to this verse over here, which says, it says from faith to faith. Same thing, right? It's the same word, from faith to faith. So when we think about this even is helping for us to even understand the true nature of faith. Where it is a constant thing. It's not like this switch, this light switch that happens and then I'm automatically good to go. Right? It's from faith to faith. But it's not like there's a faith light switch that I switch on and then it's just I'm good. It's a continual thing that continues to go on from faith to faith. Because I can have faith in one aspect of what it is that Yeshua has done for me. But he just gave me that little bit just so that I could just get my foot in the door. But once now that I got my foot in the door, I'll get my leg in there, right? And the rest of my body and all of that, everything else. So you think about the idea of this thing from faith to faith. It shows you a process, and then you don't even got to think about it, because he continues with the just shall live by faith. So your life that you live is according to this faith that you have, this progression, this process. So again, we think about this idea of, speaking of this dying the death of the upright. There's only one way to die the death of the upright, and that's living a life of faith. A life of faith.
Yep.
We're going to beat this one into the ground. Because I got about 3 more verses. Let's look at let's look over here. Chapter 3. Verse 14.
And blessed is the eunuch which with his hands hath wrought no iniquity, nor imagined wicked things against Yah. For unto him shall be given the special gift of faith, and an inheritance in the temple of Elohim, more acceptable to his mind.
Now this is interesting, because when we think about a eunuch, where we find in the scriptures this prohibition of the eunuch to be able to come close to the altar, to the tent of meetings, the eunuch. But we see here, we also see in Isaiah, we also see in the book of Acts, where it talks about the fact that those that exemplify a authentic desire and real want to do the things that are pleasing to the Most High, he blesses those that do that. And so we see over here, unto him, unto this one, this potentially this person who is this exiled individual, unto him shall be given the special gift of faith and inheritance in the temple of Yah, because of the fact that he already has pledged his allegiance to the Most High and turned away from iniquity and turned away from these wicked things. Let's look at one more of these here. 25 verse 12.
The fear of Elohim is the beginning of his love, and faith is the beginning of cleaving unto him.
Okay, very good. Is the beginning of cleaving unto him. Is the beginning of being attached to the Most High. Right? So again, we think about this thing that's being spoken of in terms of dying the death of the upright. This is something that there's strings attached to this death of the upright. right? The fact that talking about the idea of your end being like this, there's things that cause you to be in this category of the upright in the first place, and we know that prerequisite to be Yeshua, right? Yeshua is the way in which we solidify our spot in Israel, right? I saw somebody the other day on in the metaverse on Facebook, talking about asking about when you found out you was Israel. And when I think about that question, for me, that's not the beginning of my journey. That's not the beginning of my journey when I found out, when I arrived at the fact of my physical lineage. That's something that happened afterwards. What happened first was that I met my Savior, Yeshua HaMashiach. That happened first.
Right.
And that's the thing that's way more significant than, when I found out who I physically was. Mm-hmm. I don't want to say it's of no consequence. I don't want to say that it doesn't have any significance. Because when you think about the fact that the Most High said what he was going to do with his people, we could think about it in that way. In terms of, he said that he was going to regather his people from the four corners of the earth. We think about the idea of fulfillment of prophecy. It has importance in that way. But in terms of the most important thing, in terms of me being connected to the creator and sustainer of all things, the most important thing is that I am connected to my Savior, who is Yeshua, who saved my dead soul.
I mean, there was a lot of people of the flesh who rejected true and living vine. And so, like, if you ain't connected to that, you ain't connected. You know who your granddaddy is. That ain't gonna get you no pass. That is not gonna get you a pass.
There's no nepotism over here.
No, ain't none of that. You could be Israel and be as wicked as you want to be.
They the most wicked ones.
They are.
So unless you go through that door, that gate, the one way, the only way, you ain't gonna make it.
You can't make it. In fact, if you try to get in some other way, you a thief and a robber. And there's a place that thieves and robbers go. And it's a different place. It's not the same place.
Right.
And so, we got to understand there ain't no other way to die the death of the upright but to live a life of the righteous. That's the only way.
Yep.
There ain't no way around it. If I want my end to be like the upright, then I got to actually be the upright. Why is he talking about the afterlife when his afterlife is going to be his end? If he's never connected to the true source.
Yeah, I think that people are getting the cart before the horse.
That's exactly what people are getting.
And they're taking pride and pleasure in the fact that they're Israel, when the pride and the pleasure and the glory goes to the one who Israel's is. You know, it goes to the Most High, not to you.
Yeah.
And your filthy flesh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, who cares about your filthy flesh?
It is filthy too. It's filthy than the mud.
You know what I mean? It's about the one who's cleansing your filthy flesh.
Mm-hmm.
And they need to glorify. They need to get glory in that, and give glory to the one who is cleaning them up.
Yeah.
And that, who cares who you are?
Yeah.
Until you become his and you get cleaned up.
Exactly. And that's something that that we have to be able to fully understand. And in fact, this story of Balaam, it helps us to understand this lesson, because we see we could call him a prophet. A prophet hears from the Most High, and he says what the Most High said for them to say. And that's what we see with Balaam. And Balaam, spoiler alert, he don't die the death of the righteous. And so just because he looked away, just because he had a certain look about him, just because he did things that caused he did things that connected him to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Because that's who he said was telling him all of the things. Yet and still, this thing that he talks about in this utterance over here, dying the death of the righteous, and let my last end be like his, he don't see that.
The whole purpose for his lump of clay might have been just to bless Israel at this moment.
Yeah.
That's why he was probably put on the potter's wheel.
Yeah. His whole purpose in life. And just like you think about, you could think about Judas Iscariot. He was a natural born Israelite, and he was about revolution. He was about the life. He was one of the. Yeshua had many disciples, but he was one of the elite. He was one of the 12.
The inner circle.
He was in the inner circle.
Yeah.
If Yeshua was talking about if Yeshua said something, he probably heard it
Firsthand.
right there. There was an inner circle where there was other things that was said.
Was his bosom.
There was the three, but there was a few things that they witnessed that nobody else witnessed. But for the most part, Judas was there whenever Yeshua said it, whatever it is. But we could look at his life in terms of the entire scope of his life to know that he had a purpose in life, and it was to be a betrayer.
That guy. To be that guy.
He was indeed that guy. And so the same really could be said for Balaam, where he had a type of connection, but that connection don't give him no extra points, because we can see where, even though his purpose, it's a divine purpose. He's doing the work of the Most High. But he's just on the wrong side of things. He's on the wrong side of things, and it's obvious. It becomes obvious, as you look at, what he does.
Yeah. It's similar to kind of like Pharaoh. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
The Most High hardened his heart. He wouldn't let him. Okay, go ahead, take your people. No, he hardened his heart.
Yeah. It's. I mean, it's exactly that. You know, he is serving a purpose
Yeah.
that benefits Israel. It is not self-beneficial for the individuals. Pharaoh, Balaam, Judas.
Mm-hmm. Man, my hope is to he not be one of them one of them characters.
Yeah, we have to look at ourselves and really think about the things, you know, that we're doing in this world, and figure out if we're doing things for the Most High, or we have an actual relationship with the Most High, which is causing us to do things.
Right.
Because there's a big difference. Right? There's a big difference between the two. Alright, let's get back over here. Let's continue. Let's look over at verse. Let's read down from 13.
It says, and Balak said to him, please come with me to another place from where you see them. You only see the extremity, but not all of them. Curse them for me from there. And he took him to the field of Sophim, to the top of Pisgah, and built 7 slaughter places, and offered a bull and a ram on each slaughter place. And he said to Balak, stand here by your ascending offering where I meet over there. And Yahweh came to Balaam and put a word in his mouth and said, go back to Balak and say this. So he went to him and saw him standing by his ascending offering, and the heads of Moab with him. And Balak asked him, what did Yahweh say? And when he took up his proverb and said, rise up, Balak, and hear. Listen to me, son of Zippor. El is not a man to lie, nor a son of man to repent. Has he said, and would he not do it, or spoken, and would not confirm it? See, I have received to bless, and he has blessed, and I do not reverse it. He has not looked upon wickedness in Jacob, nor has he seen trouble in Israel. Yahweh, his Elohim, is with him, and the shout of a sovereign is in him. El, who brought them out of Mitzrayim, is for them like the horns of a wild ox. For there is no sorcery against Jacob, nor is there any divination against Israel. Now it is said to Jacob and to Israel, what has El done? Look, a people rises like a lioness, and lifts itself up like a lion. It lies not down until it devours the prey, and drinks the blood of the slain. And Balak said to Balaam, do not curse them at all, nor bless them at all. And Balaam answered and said to Balak, have I not spoken to you, saying, all that Yahweh speaks, that I do? And Balak said to Balaam, please, come, let me take you to another place. It might be right in the eyes of Elohim that you curse them for me from there. And Balak took Balaam to the top of Peor, and that overlooks the wasteland. And Balaam said to Balak, build 7 slaughter places for me here, and prepare 7 bulls and 7 rams for me here. And Balak did as Balaam had said, and offered a bull and a ram on each slaughter place.
Okay, very good. So, we see over here again that, you know, they're going through these processes of, you know, looking at these, you know, burning these offerings, looking for the Most High to say something, getting an answer from what the Most High actually has to say, and going back to hear something else that's potentially different than what the Most High had already said. Please come to me to another place where you can see them. You only see the extremity, but not all of them. This is interesting because it's like he wants to see because if he looks on Israel, if he looks on the people, he's going to see Israel in their beauty. Right? So he just wants to see a little bit, because he just got finished talking about the size and the magnitude of Israel, right? You shall count. Who shall count the dust of Jacob by the number of the fourth part of Israel? They're so large, and they've been so multiplied. So he says here, let's go to a place where we can't see them all. We can only see the extremity, not all of them. And then maybe you could be able to curse them maybe from there. And so they go ahead and go through the processes again. This was a thing that they did where they would slaughter these animals, make these sacrifices, and then, try to get a quote unquote reading for what the things say. When we get down to 19, where it says that El is not a man to lie, nor is he the son of man to repent. And so, this really speaks to the fact that neither one of these men have an understanding of who the Most High is. Balaam, because he keeps going back to see if the Most High will say something different, and Balak, because for the same reason, because he wants the Most High to say something against what he already said. And this is something that helps us immensely, I would think, to understand the scriptures. Understanding that the scriptures has a basic kind of understanding, a flow that a flow of ideas that is conveyed through the scriptures. And when we try to think about this flow of ideas in a way that's not fluid, it causes us to be confused about things. When we think about the scriptures as this New Testament God, is about love, and he's not like the God of the Old Testament, as if you're talking about two different gods. But when we understand that this is one complete book with one complete message, it helps us, understand who the Most High really is. It helps us to have a genuine understanding of the character of the Most High. And he's he's doing that. The Most High is doing that through these words and helping them to understand his character. I don't lie. I don't go back on the things that I've already said. I already said it. I got to deal with these kids. If I said it already, I already said it. So we don't got to go back to it again, because we've already been to this place. And he's letting these people know that I said what I said. I said what I said. Right? And so, we keep on going down here. So, see, I have received to bless, and he has blessed, and I do not reverse it. He can't go back on what was already said. I can't go back and scoop out of this people, no matter what perspective I look at this people. I can't scoop out from them.
This lets me know that there's people who are going to the extreme to see Israel's demise. I mean, they're like, they're not giving up.
Yeah.
They're turning over every rock on finding ways to destroy the people.
Yeah. And it's interesting when you think about these people, right? The Moabites. The Moabites how this all began was about potential. Israel can potentially be a harm to us. Mm-hmm. So now we got to figure out how we can go and take them out so that they won't harm us in the future.
It's the same message that's being spread right now. Like, white people are going to be the minority. So, they got all these different things, Planned Parenthood and all these different things to get rid of Israel. Because of their fear of what's going to happen in the future.
Yeah, potentially.
Right.
What could potentially happen.
Right.
They want to go through all of these things to eradicate a people because of something that might happen.
Right.
But the difference is that we got to think about the hearts of the people. If you're a people that got cold, wicked hearts, and all you want to do is go about and conquer and destroy, that's the way you think about things.
Well, yeah, exactly, and that's what they've done. It's like their own. They're projecting their own selves on other people. Well, when they get greater in number, of course they're going to destroy us,
yes.
like we did them.
Obviously,
right.
Naturally,
right.
That's what they are doing.
Right.
I mean, that's what they would do. But Israel is not like that. Israel, even here, just wanted to go from A to B.
Right.
That was the whole point. We need to get from this place to that place, and the only way to get there, the fastest way to get there, is through your place.
Right.
And you already talked about it last week, how they wasn't even trying to fight them or anything, but there was a fight because of how they was acting.
Yeah.
And it didn't have to even go to that far.
Yeah.
So that was on them.
Yeah. And when you look over in verse 21, where again, we talked about this earlier, it said he has not looked upon the wickedness of Yaakov. He overlooked it. The Most High exhibited mercy and grace over the people and not dealing with them in regards to what they was actually doing, which was actually wickedness. Nor has he seen trouble in Israel. Meanwhile, in all actuality, there was all types of trouble in Israel at this time. But the Most High, because of the love that he has for his people, he overlooks all of these things. He shows us and exhibits his character towards us because he loves us. Now this is interesting. This verse here, 22. Let me pull this up here. Because the King James says, Elohim brought them out of Egypt. He hath, as it were, the strength of a unicorn. Which I always thought was a mythical animal.
Is that the King James?
Yeah, that's what the King James said. Yeah. But our friend George Lamza helps us to understand this this verse. Let me see if I can find where he talks about this at here. This is verse 22. One second here. I thought that I saw this in here. I can't see it. One second here. Oh, here it goes. Okay. The Aramaic word bromi is derived from ram, to become high. It means high in his excellency. The Aramaic word for wild bull, buffalo, and unicorn are all this one word, in the language. And so, for whatever reason, the translators decided to use unicorn
more poetic.
in this. But if they would have just put wild bull, it would have gave you a better idea of, the great strength that the Most High used to deliver His people.
Right, because there's no such thing as a unicorn.
I've never seen. I've never seen one. No, I've been to many zoos, and I've never seen a unicorn at this zoo. And if you tried to if you was trying to use a unicorn in a euphemistic way, I wouldn't even be able to relate, because I don't know what qualities a unicorn even has besides having one horn.
Right.
But a wild bull, that thing's strong.
I know what that is.
That thing's strong. You can't hold back a wild bull. That thing has great strength. And so I think that the scriptures over here kind of gives you an accurate thing where it talks about this wild ox. 23, where it talks about the fact that there is no sorcery, no divination, no omen against Israel, nor is there any no sorcery against Yaakov, and no divination against Israel. And so again, it's just being made clear, in clear speech, that the thing that is trying to be done by Balaam through the leading of Balak is just an impossibility. And then so Balak basically is like, just don't even say nothing. Don't curse him. Don't bless him. Just don't say anything else. And he tries to let them know that I'm just saying what the Most High said for me to say. But that's all that thing that I could do. And so again, they go to another place though. They keep on going to another place. We know Balak wants a particular end. But again, the fact that, Balak wants them to get to a particular end. But the fact that Balaam actually goes along with this, to me, it just shows that he wants that end too. He wants it too. That's why he's going along with it, going through the processes and preparing these sacrifices, these altars, so that he could potentially get a new outcome.
Yeah, it's like hard to understand, because it's like, when you say no, You like, bro, like, wait. Well, come on, man. I already told you no. Like, why do you keep asking me this?
Yeah.
But I will say this though, Moshe could have learned something from Balaam. If he would have just said what the Most High told him to say, instead of saying you know what I mean?
XYZ. Rebel rousers.
And striking the rock, you know what I mean? It would be alright.
Yeah.
But Balaam, you know, he only said, he ain't say. I mean, he was still going out of the way, but he said what the Most High told him to say.
Only. Yeah. And I mean, we're able to learn from Balaam of things to do and not to do.
Mm-hmm.
He's such an interesting character that we have so many chapters about Balaam who's not even from Israel.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in what other examples do we have in the scripture of this foreign person who in the Torah? None. That there's so much about his interaction where Israel is in the periphery. They're speaking about Israel, but this ain't Israel.
Right.
These is people on the outside working against, potentially trying to work against Israel, and what happens to them on the outside. But again, we're able to look and see the things that he does and learn from it, and we're actually able to learn from the things that he doesn't do. And as you say, a thing that, you know, will be very helpful to our entire situations is just saying what the Most High said.
Right.
He wasn't adding to it in any way.
Mm-hmm.
He just was saying what the Most High said only.
Mm-hmm.
And where it was, you know, it was to his detriment at times.
Right.
But he was still letting it be known, you know, what the Father said.
Yeah. I mean, he was going through the motions, but he still only said what the Father said. I mean, I would be like, if I was Balaam, I'd be like, man, these people gonna kill me up on this mountain. Because here I am, they telling me to curse them, and I'm blessing them.
Yeah.
I'd have cut that show short. I can't help you. Sorry.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the next chapter. Let's read down. Let's read down to verse 9.
It says, "And when Balaam saw that it pleased Yahweh to bless Israel, he did not go as at other times to seek to use sorcery, but he set his face toward the wilderness. And Balaam lifted up his eyes and saw Israel encamped according to their tribes. And the spirit of Elohim came upon him, and he took up his proverb and said, the saying of Balaam son of Beor, and the saying of the man whose eyes are opened, the saying of him who hears the words of El, who sees the vision of the Almighty, who falls down with eyes opened wide. How good are your tents, O Yaakov, your dwellings, O Israel! Like wadis that stretch out, like gardens by a river, like aloes planted by Yahweh, like cedars beside waters. He makes water flow from his bucket, and his seed is in many waters. His sovereign is higher than Agag, and his reign is exalted. El, who brought him out of Mitzrayim, is for them like the horns of a wild ox. He devours nations, his enemies, and he breaks their bones, and with his arrows he smites. He bowed down, he lay down like a lion, and like a lion, who would rouse him? Blessed is he who blesses you, and cursed is he who curses you.
Okay, very good. So we see over here where instead of going to a new place, you're starting to get, somewhat of I don't know, understanding as to the fact that there's nothing's new is going to happen. Instead of going to a different place, now it says that he just looks towards the wilderness. He looks over towards where the people are, where Israel is, in the wilderness, where they are encamped, and he sees the people, and it says that the spirit of Elohim came upon him. And so it's interesting that when we look at this over here, that when we see these things that he says, like in verse 4, saying of him who hears the words of El, who sees the vision of the Almighty, and falls down and opens, falls down with eyes open. And it really just caused me to just really think about the idea of, being able to see what it is that the Most High is calling for you, what he's saying to you, to see it, to have a vision of the Almighty, right? To be able to actually hear the words, right? Whether he's speaking, words to you through a voice, or you looking at his word that he's written, and his written word speaking to you. In verse 4 over here, he's describing this man whose eyes are open. He's talking about the himself, Balaam. And this again, thinking about Balaam and things that we're able to look to and learn from. We have to have this connection to our Father. We have to have this connection to our Father to know what it is it's saying. One of the ways that we're able to know what it is that the Most High says to us, one of the ways that we're able to understand when the Most High speaks to us is to know what his word actually says. Many times people say, well, the Most High said for me to go, and the Most High, he really told me this. He told me to go, across the street to my neighbor's house, and to take my neighbor's wife from him. He really told me this. I know that the Most High told me to do this. But if we know what the Most High says in his word, we could know that that wasn't the Most High saying that. Right? So something that helps for us to be able to understand what the Most High would actually say is to know his word, to be able to know his character, to understand what he would say and what he wouldn't say. It's people out here saying that they heard from the Most High and he's telling them to do this or that, but we're able to go into the scriptures and look and say, well, he wouldn't tell you to do X, Y, Z because it says ABC right over here.
I'm not supposed to do that.
But somebody could swear up and down, yeah, he told me to do this. This is the way that he's leading me.
That's why I get women saying that stuff all the time about being with men, having relations with them, all kinds of stuff.
He leading me to do this. He leading me to do that.
He's leading you into iniquity.
The Most High don't operate in that way. But if we don't have ears to hear the words of Elohim, if we're not able to see the vision of the Almighty with our eyes open, then we miss out on things. And we talk to ourselves in our mind and think that and call it the Most High.
That's just you.
But the Christians, they're gonna fight with you, man. They're gonna be like, he told Peter to rise and eat all of them wicked, not wicked, but all of those unclean things.
Right. And so the thing is that we have to be able to, again, if the scriptures don't contradict themselves.
They don't.
And so the thing is that when you have, when your thought process is heavy on the New Testament and light on the Old Testament, you miss out on the character part.
Right.
You don't know who the Most High is. You just reading these words. They could say whatever they say. But if you're not looking at these words through the lens of the so-called Old Testament, you get confused.
Right.
And so that's what they would say. But that's the same thing we talking about over here, is that when we say that the Most High did this, or he said that, or he moved somebody to do this or to do that, we could say that it's true or not true based on knowing what his character that he didn't hide from us, that he showed us in his scriptures. He gave us all of his characteristics in the Torah. We know what the Most High has the propensity to do, and he don't go outside of the form that he created. He don't go outside of it. And so it's so important to actually know what the word says. Like, he's given us this word for a reason. People come up with all types of fanciful thoughts and ideas and blame it on, I'm using the word blame, and blame it on the Most High when he didn't have nothing to do with it. And a simple study of the scripture could help you to understand, to know what his character is, to know that this thing that you saying that the Most High is leading you to do, he never could have led you to do that. I'll tell somebody, Most High didn't tell you that. I've done it. I've done it too. I'll do it again.
And they say, well, the Most High I serve is different from the one you serve. And somebody tell me that like last week.
What you say? I know.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
That's all you could say.
Yeah. You're absolutely right.
I mean, people will pull that out on you in a minute. It's like playing spades when they got a joker. The Most High said. You know how you slap it on the table and the cards spin around?
Yep, makes that sound.
The Most High said it. But they don't know that that's the little joker. I'm pulling out the big joker and I'm slapping it right. Did you see that in the scripture somewhere? Show me that. Show me that, how that works. But if we know what the word says, we don't fall into these things. And then even more so when we think about all of this that we're looking at with Balaam and Balak in the first place. We know that even though Balaam hears from the Most High, we know he don't know. We already know that. Because he wants to sit up there and try to curse the firstborn of the Most High.
In verse 1, it says, and when Balaam saw that it pleased Yah to bless Israel, he did not go as at other times to seek to use sorcery. So other times he's using sorcery, so you know he don't know the Most High.
No, because he's using these little things, these little tricks, like we said that is something that, from a historical standpoint, they would take these sacrifices and burn them and try to read the ashes. But over here it said he just set his face on y'all's people and lifted up his eyes and saw Israel over there, and then the Spirit came upon him.
I think the only reason why they got this interaction is because he was being called to curse Israel.
Yeah.
And the Most High stepped in.
Yeah.
Because I don't see how you can know the Most High and keep pressing him like that to do what you know he don't want you to do.
Yeah.
Like he done already told you no, and you just going, well, let me check again.
Which just makes the point of what I was just saying in terms of, we're able to understand, we're able to ascertain whether or not somebody actually knows the Most High based on their actions, based on the things that they do, despite the fact of them actually saying other things that the Most High said.
Right. There was times in the scripture where people, pressed the Most High and kept coming at him, but it was for good. Mm-hmm. They were trying to save people. You know what I mean? Not curse people.
Yeah. All right. Mm-hmm. All right, let's keep on going. We went down to 12, right? Let's start back up at let's see.
No, wait, we were at 9.
Oh, that is right, 9. All right, so start back at 10.
It says, then the displeasure of Balak burned against Balaam, and he struck his hands together. Balak.
Hold on, this just made me think about people. So he start clapping. You ain't gonna sit up here and be like, I called you the curse. You gonna sit up here and bless? That's so funny. He shook his hands together. Go ahead, keep on going.
It says, Balak then said to Balaam, I summoned you to curse my enemies, and see, you have kept on blessing these 3 times, and now flee to your place. I said I would greatly esteem you, and see, Yahweh has kept you back from esteem. And Balaam said to Balak, did I not also speak to your messengers whom you sent to me, saying, if Balak should give me his house filled with silver and gold, I am unable to go beyond the word of Yahweh, to do either good or evil of my own heart. What Yahweh speaks, that I speak. And now see, I am going to my people. Come, let me advise you what this people is going to do to your people in the later days.
That's interesting. So, just as we get ready to come to the end of all of this, I just thought it was interesting when we look over here with the fact that, when we look at this, Balaam, as he speaks, we don't know who his people are. I think they're the Midianites. Because, spoiler alert, he dies with the Midianites. But, when we look, it don't tell us. It don't tell us, who they are. But here it's like they get to this point of, there's nothing, I can't do nothing else. I told you from the beginning, even though this is kind of, it's strange, Because even though he said, I can't do nothing else but speak what the Most High said for me to speak, he's still going along with the process as if something different is going to happen.
Right.
And, it kind of just gives weight to the thought process of him actually trying to curse, wanting for curses to come out and blessing only come out. Like he could, like the Most High. It said the Spirit came. What did it say up here in verse? It said the Spirit of Elohim came upon him. When we look at this. This is interesting here. The Spirit of Elohim came upon him. If we look at this verse here, number 4. King James says this, look. Falling into a trance, but having his eyes open. They put into a trance there because this word falling, not fall, to fall in great variety of applications, to accept it, cast down, self lots, cease, die, divide. There's so many things over here. Here, let me look at the word study.
It's like he fell into a trance.
Oh, here it is. To fall, to lie, to prostrate oneself, overthrow, common. The Hebrew verb carries many possible variations, meaning much like in the English verb to fall. For instance, it can be used literally if someone or something's falling down a pit. It is employed to inanimate objects like falls towards trees. Is used idiomatically for the violent death, like if somebody falls to death or to overthrow a city. The word also describes those who fall prostrate before Elohim, with the preposition all, meaning upon. It carries the meaning to literally fall upon, to desert, to be overcome by sleep or emotion, to fall into a sleep, like when we Genesis 15 is where Abraham goes to sleep and the covenant is made with the Most High, going through the birds and the animals that he cut in half, which is kind of like a falling into a trance. It is used to express the idea of being bedridden or debilitated, to be overtaken or to fall into the hands of someone, and so on and so forth. And so the idea of falling with your eyes open, the translators thought about this in the idea of falling into a trance, kind of this spiritual sleep, but yet having your eyes still open. And so all that to say, in connection with the Spirit of Elohim coming upon him, as if to say there was this spiritual thing that was going on where the Most High was literally using him as a conduit and just speaking through him, and his body just was doing what the Most High said, basically.
Yeah. I would liken it to like the overtaken, because a famous singer once told me that they were having these spiritual experiences, and they were like in the hospital this one time, and she felt this thing like trying to come upon her, and she would always fight it. She said, but this time she embraced it and it overtook her. So
Yeah. So, we definitely are able to see that from a negative sense and also from a positive sense in terms of spirit, whether it be the spirit of Elohim or familiar spirits coming upon people and working through you. But
I was thinking that prophecy is supposed to be where you're just speaking the word straight from the source.
yeah,
It don't have no filter through your mind.
yeah, and that's that's one of the reasons why we're as far as my understanding in terms of a woman's official role in the body, she's able to say what the Most High said. Yeah, what he said, she's able to say that. That's what we just described, their prophecy. That's what prophecy is. So when we look at 1 Corinthians, where it talks about women in the body of Messiah, it says that they're able to pray, they're able to prophesy. It says that they're not able to teach men specifically. Why, though, the one thing and not the other? Because when we think about true prophecy, it's saying what it is that the Most High said. You're not expounding upon or anything. You're saying what he said. He said for you to say a thing, and then now you're saying it. Basically, what we see Balaam over here doing is just, he don't have nothing added to none of this. It's just, this is what the Most High said, and I'm saying it. Even if we say that he fell into a trance and he's just only, like, he don't even got no control over it, potentially. But at the end of the day, he's saying what the Most High said for him to say. This one who fell down, but his eyes are open. And so it's so important, we keep on saying this, is that it's so important that we are able to have some real substance to what we know of as our relationship with the Most High, because he's using this individual. He's using him. But his end is not going to be the same as those who truly belong to the Most High. Okay, so what do we read down to?
I think it was
14.
I think it was that.
Yeah, it's 14.
Oh. Okay, let's keep on going down. Let's see.
That wasn't that.
Let's see how much is. Let's read the rest of this. 15 through the end there.
And he took up his proverb and said, you got it on the screen?
Yeah.
And he took up his proverb and said, the saying of Balaam, son of Beor, and the saying of the man whose eyes are open, the saying of him who hears the words of El and knows the knowledge of the Most High, who sees the vision of the Almighty, who falls down with eyes open wide. I see him, but not now. I observe him, but not near. A star shall come out of Jacob, and a scepter shall rise out of Israel, and shall smite the corners of Moab, and shall destroy all the sons of Sheth. And Edom shall be a possession, and Seir shall be a possession. Enemies of Israel is doing mightily. And out of Jacob one shall rule and destroy the remnant of from he then looked at Amalek, and took up his proverb and saying, Amalek was first among the nations, but his latter end is to perish forever. He then looked at the Canaanites, and he took up his proverb and said, firm is your dwelling place, and your nest is set in a rock, but Cayenne is to be burnt. Till when does Asher keep you captive? And he took up his proverb and said, oh, who does live when El does this? And ships shall come from the coast of Kittim, and they shall afflict Asher and afflict Eber, and so shall Amalek, and he also perishes. And Balaam arose and left and returned to his place, and Balak also went his way.
So we come to the end over here, and they just go their separate ways. It's like he said, he just dropped this bomb, which, oh, by the way, is nothing but blessings on Israel and curses on those, actual curses on those who come against him. And then he just even comes up with examples of those, right? And he goes through these different, he's standing in this place where he can see where Israel, the people are, where he sees them all together. When he says, he says this thing that's part of the actual morning blessing over here, where he says, how good are your tents, O Jacob, your dwellings, O Israel. He sees them and he's just nothing but blessings over there. But then he looks around, right? He look around and he sees these other places. He sees these other places, Edom. Right? And he sees these other places, Amalek. And these other places that he sees, and talks about these curses that, that he says on them. But it's interesting when we look at verse 17, where he says, I see him, but not now. I see this person, but I don't see him now. I observe him, but not near. Right? He's over there. I can see him, but he's afar off. I could see him, but I don't see him in this present time. What did it say in I shall see him, but not now. I shall behold him, but not nigh or not close. This star shall come out of Jacob. Let's see here. This word star, 17, is the word kokab. Kokab, in the sense of rolling. A blazing, a star, as around or as shining, a prince or a star, gazing, right? This person, it's a person because it's out of Jacob. It's a person that rules because it talks about this scepter shall rise out of Israel and shall smite the corners of Moab. Moab, the Moabites is the person who's supposed to be getting the blessing right now.
He's trying to pay for it.
So this one who's going to rise up, that I see him, but not now, and I observe him, but he's not near. This star that comes out of Yaakov, this person is also a ruler down the road. Let's look over here. Let's look at Malachi 4. What did I say right there? 1 and 2.
says, "For look, the day shall come, burning like a furnace, and all the proud and every wrongdoer shall be stubble, and the day that shall come shall burn them up, said Yahweh of hosts, which leaves to them neither root nor branch. But to you who fear my name, the Son of Righteousness shall arise with healing in his wings, and you shall go out and leap for joy like calves from the stall."
That's interesting because I know what a calf that leaps for joy looks like. When we went to Yellowstone and we saw the bison, these big old huge bison. Hold on, was they really bison or buffalo?
Yeah, everybody's
Bison.
Okay, so buffaloes aren't native to the Americas. We learned that also. What we have is bison over here. And so bison is this big old heavy looking thing. These big old things. Full grown ones. And they walk around slow and they be eating stuff just like a cow. They're reaching there eating it up with their little things. The full grown ones. But the calves though, the young ones, them things be running around jumping. Like jumping. Like prancing, like jumping around all over the place. There's a clear difference between like the full grown ones are just they kind of mosey. The full grown ones they mosey around, but them calves, the young ones, they run around and jump. They just look happy, right? And so I see this over here talking about and you shall go out and leap with joy like calves from the stall. They're running and jumping, right? As a result of this Son of Righteousness, right? This Son of Righteousness. This probably says Shemesh. Let me see here. Where it's literally talking about this star. Right? This brilliant, root meaning to be brilliant, the sun, the east, the rays, eastward, the sun. So it's talking about, this thing that exudes righteousness, right? This thing that is bright, and the brightness that's coming off of it is righteousness. Just like when we look at the sun, the thing that comes off of it is light. But to you who fear my name, the Son of Righteousness shall arise with healing and in his wings. The same one, by the way, that's destroying the proud and the wrongdoers and burning them up to be stubble. The same way it just talked about what this star is going to do, the one with the scepter, to all of these enemies of Israel. And so we got this messianic prophecy that's going forth from this Balaam, this non-Israelite Balaam, who's giving you end time prophecy about Israel, who didn't even make it to Israel proper yet. They never even made it to the land, and we got this prophecy that's going all the way to the end of time. That puts the people of the Most High on top. Hold on, just read number 3 also with that, verse 3.
Listen, so you shall trample the wrongdoers, for they shall be ashes under the soles of your feet on the day that I do this, said Yahweh of hosts.
Mm-hmm. So it's interesting the similarity between what we see Malachi, which is clearly this prophetic utterance that he speaks about what's going on in the end times, and what we see with Balaam, and his prophetic utterances that he gives, as they as he begins to this encounter comes to a close with Balak. And so, it ends over here with them, just parting ways. It takes it to kind of an extreme level, because now it goes further than just Balaam just giving blessings to Israel, but now there's also curses that are added to these people who, by the way, are connected to the Moabites, and also includes the Moabites. And so at this point, Balaam and Balak, it says that they rose and left and returned to his place, and Balak went also his way. And so when we look at this, we see all of this again, really kind of to sum all of this stuff up, it causes us really to think about the fact that, the Most High really will use anyone. He can use anyone.
Yep.
To speak his words.
Mm-hmm.
And his words always going to be true.
Yeah, anything.
And we saw last week, anything.
Bushes. People falling off they donkeys and they talking to him. He'll use anything. Clouds.
Everything. But when he does that, it don't have any bearing on the presenter, the one who has the truth, the one who has the words that the Most High said. Just because you said what he said, it don't cause you to be better necessarily.
Right.
And so we have to be able to not only when we look at others, we have to be able to test what these people are saying, and these people, for that matter, we have to be able to look to ourselves, because the Most High could be sitting up here telling us things to say and do. But do we have a genuine relationship with the Most High? We're able to look and definitively say that Balaam didn't, because he was obviously working, as far as he was concerned, he was working for the enemy. He literally was working for the enemy. There was nothing in the things that he was doing that was showing, besides the words that he was speaking, but the fact that he was going through the processes was only showing that he was working for the wrong side. But there was nothing that he could do that was actually doing anything actually for the wrong side, even though he was on the other side. And so, I'm saying that we have to be able to look at ourselves, and be able to judge whether or not we are in fact doing a work for the Most High, or if we are actually working for the Most High. Right? I can have a job and be employed by somebody and be doing the work for my employer, or I could just be some random person who sees something that this company is doing and just start doing things for them, but I'm not really getting paid for it.
Oh, I'll tell you, give you a prime example. This Apple phone that you buy, every time you put it to your ear, somebody sees the Apple emblem, and you're promoting for.
It lights up.
Yeah, you're promoting for Apple.
But no,
But you ain't getting paid. You ain't getting paid for
You
that.
just see it, yeah. It's brand. No, it don't light up.
Yeah.
It's just.
Oh, you
it's
mean?
that
Oh,
it's
right.
You
Yeah,
ain't getting paid.
yeah.
Brand.
You working for that.
Yeah.
Yep. Free advertising.
That's true. And you know, I gotta say, I'm guilty of this. When I bought my car, I didn't want for them. Sometimes they'll put like a sticker on your car that says where you got the car from.
Yeah,
I don't like that
I don't like it
because you
either.
get free advertisement.
Right.
But what they did was put the little license plate cover thing on there, and I ain't never take it off. I'm doing the work for this place. I'm not even gonna say the name of the place. I'm doing the work for this place, and I ain't getting paid for it. They getting free advertisement from me, and I'm advancing their purposes.
Yeah.
With
Every time
no
you drive down the
benefit.
street, they be like, "Ooh, we need to go there and get our car."
Do you got the license plate of the Most High on your car, and you riding around advertising for the Most High, and you ain't getting paid for it? That's something right there.
You're not gonna die to death.
You ain't getting no benefits. You ain't getting no benefits from the work that you out here doing, because you not even really connected to the divine employer. You might be doing the work, and it's results that's coming about as a result of the work that you doing. But you not gonna be connected to the results. You're not getting paid to do the work.
All those people that came up, that are going to come up to Yeshua, saying, "Lord, Lord," they was casting out demons. They was healing people. They was doing all kind of stuff. And guess what? They had to depart because he never knew them.
Never. He said he never knew him. He didn't say I stopped knowing you. He said, "Depart from me, you workers of iniquity, because I used to know you, but then I stopped knowing you."
Yeah, never.
That's not. He said, "I never knew you." And so the whole time, we're led to believe the whole time they was doing work for the kingdom, and it was real work that they was doing. They was really doing. The Most High was really moving through these people, but they didn't benefit. And so, the story of Balaam helps us to understand that, our relationship got to be a real relationship, not just out here doing the work, but actually being in a real relationship with the Creator and Sustainer of all things through His Son, Yeshua HaMashiach, and truly trusting in the work of Yeshua that He's done for each and every one of us, and truly experiencing, Yeshua's salvation, in our hearts and in our minds and in our bodies, which is going to result in things that we do in our lives, in our actions, and not the other way around. Not having the cart before the horse. Okay, so that being said, do we have any last questions, comments before we finish up here? All right, so that being said, we want to make sure you subscribe to the channel, make a comment, put your little questions in below. You know, we answer questions on the email. We answer questions that are in the comments section. And make sure that you hit your bell notification so that we're able to see what we are doing. And so, all that being said, y'all willing, we'll be back on next Shabbat to continue with our look at the book of Numbers. And we'll say for now, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.